Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tronage, and today we're going to talk about that it's snowing, and that's why I'm not flying. But we do have an FPV crate. You want to check out what's in that box? Stick around. It was cold outside. Let me tell you something. I was out there for a little while trying to figure out what I wanted to shoot, how to shoot it, and all that fun stuff, and I ended up getting kind of snowed on. You know, notice I got a little bit of snow up on my brim. I got snow all over. I got kind of wet. So I'm nice and dry, and I'm warm, and that's what matters. No, it's not. FPV crate for 2020 January. That's why we're all here. You don't care if I'm warm and cozy. Anywho, if you haven't heard the news yet, let me be the first to let you know that over the course of the new year, drone drop, bye-bye. Not necessarily because I unsubscribed. I mean, completely I would have unsubscribed based on the contents, and I would have unsubscribed to them because I thought it was really horrible, and they basically kind of merged into FPV crate and they're gone. So now there's only two players in the mystery box world for drone. Now we got FPV crate and we got the quad box. So first in for January 2020 is the FPV crate. So if you're new around here, here's how it's gonna work. Basically, gonna bring you all in close, do a little bit of an unboxing, give you my initial opinions of what I see and what's in this box and whatnot, and then we do a little bit of a cost analysis to really see what it's worth, what kind of value you're getting, and to really know, is one of these boxes, right for you. But before we do any of that, slam that subscribe button. While you're at it, hit that bell icon. Makes finding my videos a whole heck of a lot easier, helps support the channel, and keeps you in the know when I post videos like this one. And it's completely free. So please go do that. All right, with that out of the way, why don't you come on in? Let's crack it open. FPV. Let's do it. All right, so we give it our little flipperoo action. I could not find my normal blade, so I just got myself a new blade because if you're new to the channel, I just love the way it feels to cut these vinyl stickers, and I thoroughly appreciate the folks over at FPV Crate still using these wonderful vinyl stickers. I know it's probably expensive to them, but I don't know. There's just something buttery smooth about cutting it with the razor blade. Oh, it does not disappoint. Wonderful. All right, a little bit of that pre-open on that flap. We flip it back around. We get in position. We get it ready. And here we go. All right, so first off, we have our little cheat sheet action thing. So let me take that out because I do not want any spoiler alerts. I'm just going to take a quick peek at what's in here. Okay, so I'm not gonna look at the this card yet because I don't want any spoilers. There's this little Hiller deal. It's the T-Motor YEMA frame that we got in our previous FPV crate. It's got the booster motors. It's got HQ props for 85 bucks. So that's just a little bit of advertising if you're interested. Then we have our sticker sheet, which as you can see, unfortunately mine seems to have gotten stuck in the fold of the box. So mine's got a kind of a little crank into it. But essentially what this is it's showing exactly what was on that card. It's showing the YEMA frame with the booster motors, and it even says YEMA booster as one of the stickers. So that's what we got going on here. We got some packing material, so we'll pull that out of the way. And next up, we got some Dowel Props. So let's take a peek at those. We got 3 sets of them. They're called the Spitfire 5147.5 in smoke gray. If you want to check out that for your viewing pleasure. And I'm going to take a quick peek at them just because I can, and they're in these easy to open Ziploc bags. With one of these opened here, I'll give you my initial impressions here. Ultimately, in the hand, it feels a little bit more lightweight than, like, let's say the Dowel Cyclone 5050s. The leading edge of the prop here just feels a little bit thinner, a little bit smoother, I guess. Feels a little bit lighter, less weight. Like, you can see it's very bendable, so it feels like it's a little less. And little less pitch because it's a 47.5 instead of a 50-50, which I usually use. So it's a little bit bigger, a little less pitchy, but super excited to try them out because I love me some Dowel Props, and I'm usually into the Cyclone. So again, this is why I love mystery boxes, because I wouldn't ever say, like, I'm happy with the Cyclone, why do I gotta try a Spitfire? But now I got some Spitfires to try, so you know what? I'll give them a try and see if I like them. Put that to the side. Next up, you know what? We have a shirt, and we have some goodies here that I can't see, but I feel are boxy. So let's do the shirt first for a change. Let's see what we got here. Always happy to get a shirt. So let's see. So that's kind of cool. Kind of cool. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it's kind of cool. So here, let's take a look at this together. So basically, it's sort of like the shirt is like a spec sheet of, again, that quad that I showed the little advertisement for, where it's basically the Yamaha frame, the booster motors, yada yada. So it's sort of like a spec sheet about it. So it's, you know, here's your quad, and you have your 20 by 20, 30 by 30 mounting pattern, protective canopy. And then as you move up the shirt here, or down the shirt, I guess you could say, you have your booster motor action, you have your front view, your perspective view. So it's sort of like a little spec sheet about it. I don't know. I like it. It's in your face. Hey, I'm a quad pilot. So I kind of like it sometimes when it's more subtle. But it definitely is kind of cool. And then you got down here, a little further down, it has the different things that are in there, kind of like on a race car where you put like the different stickers of each, you know, component that's installed on it. And basically I'm walking around with a spec sheet on my chest. And then last, we have these two items here. One's feeling kind of plasticky, one's feeling kind of cardboardy. Which one to do, I don't know. I'll go with the cardboard one. It is a Foxeer camera. Very cool. What do we got? We got the Foxeer Razor Micro. There's your stats if you want to check it out. Looks to be a 4x3 camera. Pretty cool. Definitely interested in trying that out. And then last up, we have... It's a FPV Crate F7 flight controller. Dun, 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 dun. Let's check it out if it's... Yeah. It has the FPV Crate logo right there in the silk screen. Looks pretty sweet board. Let's see what we got on the other side. Oh, that's cool. They did the FPV Crate logo right here in the solder resist on this side. Ah! Don't hurt me. So it's pretty cool. Let's see what else we get with it. We got a little baggie of goodies here. And our baggie of goodies, our baggie of goodies contains two items. We have an additional gummy. So I guess in case we lose a gummy or break a gummy, we have a gummy. And we get the cable to hook it up to a 4-in-1 ESC. So that makes you wonder, what's in store for next month? Are we going to get like a 4-in-1 ESC? Like, are they going to slowly be giving us the parts to build a quad? I don't know. We got the booster motors. We got the frame. We now have a flight controller and a camera. Who knows? Maybe that's the grand scheme of things. I'm only guessing. Don't quote me on that. So anyway, let's do a little recap. We got our F7 flight controller. We got the Foxeer Razor camera. We got the spec sheet t-shirt. We got ourselves 3 sets of props. We got ourselves a sticker sheet. Mine came pre-bent. We have the little cheat sheet. And we have the killer deal. I said Hiller before because I thought that was an H, but it's a K. Now it makes a whole lot of sense. Killer deal. In any case, and that is all we got in this box. So let's run some numbers and see what we get. All right, I have that delicious cost analysis, and here you go. So let's go through these line by line, and we'll talk about them. So first up, we got these Dowel props, these Spitfire props. I'm very intrigued about these because they made a very, very bold statement. When I was researching them to see what's the difference between the Spitfire, because I'm very familiar with the Cyclone flavor of the Dowel prop, usually use like a 50-50, 50-45, somewhere around there for my builds. They go on to make the statement that the Spitfire props eliminate prop wash. Eliminate. Now, that's a pretty bold statement. If you're not familiar with what prop wash is, let's talk about that for a quick half second. The quick and the dirty is, as you're going through the air, let's say this is your prop, and you're moving this way through the air, this is like clean, still air that you're going through. That's why it's called clean, and you're going through it. After you've gone through it, you can imagine after the prop is spun and spatted out the back, it's all disturbed and funkydelic. That's called your dirty air or your wash. It's basically what comes out of the back of it. A visual representation would be, imagine in your mind a boat going across a lake. The water in front of the boat, nice and still. The water behind the boat, all choppy and messed up, and it causes what they call a wake. That's like the wash coming out of the back of it. Same thing with these props. Prop wash is when you do some sort of a maneuver that you created some dirty air and then flew back around and went through that dirty air. That usually gives your flight control a little bit of a hiccup because it's now trying to combat this turbulent air to fly through and still stay stable. Usually, for the most part, this can be tuned out doing, PID tuning and stuff, but sometimes you'll just have a quad that won't. You just can't get rid of all of it. And they're saying these props get rid of it, which is a pretty bold statement in my opinion. I can see theoretically how I think they're combating it because it's a thinner thickness and a more flexible type material. So I think the idea is that it being a thinner blade, it can cut through turbulent air a little bit better, and being a little bit more flexible, but not too flexible, when it hits that turbulent air, rather than sending weird vibrations and oscillations through to your flight controller, it instead maybe just deflects a little bit to combat that. Kind of like soft mounting your motors. Well, this is kind of like having like soft mounted props, I guess, because they can deflect a little easier and not transmit those vibrations to your flight controller. I think that's how it works. Don't know for sure, just taking my best guess at it. But as you saw, the weather is not so great right now, so I'm looking forward to trying these out once it gets warmer to see if they really do get rid of prop wash. Next up, we have the t-shirt, and if you're not aware, I'm actually big time into swag. I love getting t-shirts, I love getting hats, I love getting all this stuff in these boxes. It's actually one of the main reasons why I decided to start subscribing way back when I started subscribing, was because it was kind of cool to get like shirts and hats and stuff in addition to the equipment. However, as I mentioned earlier, don't know, I feel like the design of this was almost phoned in. It looks pretty much like a spec sheet that maybe they already designed for something and put it on the shirt. So there really isn't that much graphic expression, if you will. It's really just a spec sheet on a shirt. And it's also the exact same stuff that was drawn out for the sticker sheet. So it really was like, hey, we already have these, graphic elements. Let's just put them on the shirt and hit print, essentially. So I wish there was a little bit more creative, pizzazz, versus just having, the sticker sheet and the shirt all kind of look like a spec sheet. But, some people may like it. It's not my gig. But nonetheless, I still love having the shirt, and I will definitely still be wearing it. Which then that brings us to the Fox Ear camera, the Razor Micro. And that's the one thing I love about these mystery boxes, is that it gives you the opportunity to try products that you normally wouldn't buy. For example, the Fox Ear Razor Micro is not a camera that I would say, hey, let me go get me one of those. So therefore, getting one now gives me an opportunity to try it. And if it turns out, wow, this is I like the way it builds, I like the way it flies, whatever my opinion is of it, maybe this will become my go-to camera. So it's really cool being able to get these random pieces of equipment in your box. So that's why I enjoy getting them. So I'm excited about that. And then that brings us to the FPV Crater F7 flight controller. Now, value-wise, stupendous, but marked in that peachy orange color. If you're new around to the channel, that usually means there's some sort of problem. The problem here is I can't find a price for this. As the time of this filming, this does not exist anywhere, including the FPV Crate website. I can't find documentation on it, which is another thing. If I was a new person building a quad, I go, oh, wow, yay, I got a flight controller. How do I hook this up? Let me go get the instructions. Let me open it up. Oh, there's no folded up piece of paper in here telling me how to hook it up. Let me go on the website. Oh no, FPV Crate doesn't have this, nor do they have any documentation or anything about it. Oh man, what do I do? How do I hook this up? I don't know how to do this. So this is where I kind of put myself in the shoes of a beginner to see, how can I help you guys out? How can I help you figure out how to hook this up? So I said, all right, I'll plug this flight controller into Betaflight and I'll see what firmware it's running. That should give a good indication of what kind of flight controller this is. So when I did that and I typed my version command, it turned out it's a T-Motor F7 flight controller. Well, can you believe that? With a T-Motor frame and now a T-Motor flight controller. Sounds to me like FPV Crate's gotten in the good goodies with T-Motor working on projects together, like the previous frame, the Yama, however you pronounce it, and now a flight controller. From what I can see, essentially, this is what's known as a vanity flight controller, meaning they take an existing flight controller, tweak it a little bit, make a couple little changes, slap your new logo on it for the company, and now call it your own product. Personally, the only person that I feel benefits from that is the person whose logo slapped on that new product for advertising. But it never benefits the end user, because that now little flavored version requires like maybe a new firmware, typically does not have the same amount of documentation as the original, and that's the case here. You want to find documentation about this exact flight controller from FPV Creator? Can't. At least at the time of this filming, there's nothing, zero on it. Want to find the documentation about the F7 flight controller from T-Motor? Wonderful. There's plenty of it. Let's take a look. Here you go. They have a wonderful pinout layout of this whole flight controller. Tells you all the different pins. It tells you the different bridging points and what does what when you bridge which pads. It tells you some notes about stuff. It'll tell you all the specs. Even shows you, like, if you're using a GPS, what section you should be hooking into and where you hook up your LED and where you hook up your receivers and which things go to which channels and stuff. This is all wonderful information, which this doesn't have associated with it at all. So you might say, well, Tronage, since it's just a vanity board, why can't I just use that documentation and call it a day? Well, two things. One, you'd have to know to go to the T-Motor website to look at this information, because there's no indication on this product that it is a T-Motor vanity flight controller. So you really wouldn't know that unless you started poking around, like looking at the firmware. Number two is, they're not exactly identical, and I'll show you. So here we got the two boards. On the left here, this is from T-Motor's website. I do not own this actual flight controller. These are pictures from their website. This, on the other hand, here on the right, these are the FPV Crate boards that I took pictures of my very own. And on the surface, they look near identical, at least for the pinouts and stuff. Now, obviously, some chips have been moved around, like the OSD is on the top of the board for the Get FPV, while it's on the bottom for the T-Motor. And the gyro shifts over. So on T-Motor, your gyro is here, and on the Get FPV, the gyro is over here. And, you know, different components, like this is on the top, but it's on the bottom over here. You know, so things shuffle around a little bit, and I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me none. But what does bother me is when things get a little confusing. Namely, everything's like that. This is the same as this. This is the same as this. And this is the same as this. Everything looks all happy and good until you get to the VTX and cam section. Cam section on the left. Cam section on the right. VTX section on the right. VTX section on the left. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at that. You have your cam with your different settings: negative, positive, CC, VT. Okay? You come over here to this side, cam. Not only is it a different side, but the pin order is different. Negative, positive, negative, video in. CC video in, CC positive. So if you take that instruction that I showed you from T-Motor's website and you don't really pay attention to the silk screening, and you just say, well, I'm going to hook up my camera, my VTX, and I see I'm supposed to attach my video in to the 4th pin on the top here, well, then you're going to be hooking up your cam to the ground on the VTX section, because that's what it's labeled as over here. Or maybe let's say for my VTX, well, I'm going to hook up my VTX and I see the ground is the last pin here. So I'm going to hook up my ground wire to that. But if you come over here, it's actually the cam section, and that's your positive. So right there, you're probably going to create a funky short, because you're going to have your positive connected to a ground wire, and then your ground wire is actually going to be attached to your video out. So your positive wire is going to be onto... Do you see what I'm saying? Things aren't going to get hooked up correctly unless you're paying attention. And one other thing. Normal board design, square pads like this is a square, has a ground next to it. That's the typical normal. Ovally shaped pads are pretty much, positives or anything else. But you usually make your ground pads square in shape so that you can kind of distinguish them as being a little bit different. Ground pad, square. Negative, square. Negative, square. Ground, square. See what I'm saying? Let's go look at the Get FPV version. Square, positive, huh? Square, positive, what? So that again makes me confused now. Do I believe the way the pin pads are set up? Do I believe the way the silk screening is set up? Normally in that situation, when I see a square pad labeled as a positive, I'd say, well, let me check the instructions and see, because usually these go into production and they get shipped out fine, but an instruction manual on a website can be updated, and the moment someone notices that, they can make a distinction. Note, even though the pad is square, it is correctly silk screened as positive. Or, note, the silk screening is incorrect, the square pad is actually negative. Yeah, remember that whole part about there not being any documentation for this flight controller? So good luck trying to figure that one out. So there's where I put my pause in how to hook this up. Now, granted, none of this is against this flight controller. It's just this is the reasons why, personally, I don't like vanity versions of products, because little things change that can cause big problems, and usually the vanity versions don't have full thought out instructions with them, and you end up leaving the end user in the dust. And that's not good for this hobby, because if this gets hooked up wrong or someone follows the wrong instructions, it can blow out their gear. They wasted their money. Now they're annoyed. They rage quit it. They throw it in a box, and then they don't come back to the hobby. We need to make sure to get this hobby mainstream, it's got to be as easy as possible. Now, granted, there are those out there that have no problem hooking this up, myself included. I can hook this up without having an instruction manual following the silk screen on it. But is the silk screen correct? I showed you it might not be. I don't know. It's weird that the pins are moved, but the pads haven't. And I don't know. It's just leaving a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth is all I'm saying with that, because I in all honesty, I would have rather just received the T-Motor F7 flight controller, and I wouldn't have had to have this whole explanation, and I would have went, hurrah, I have instructions to hook this up, let's go, awesome value, woohoo. But instead, we got this FPV Crater version that has a little bit different. And one other thing, I don't know if I mentioned or not, remember that I mentioned about this little transmitter pit setting here that you can set on the T-Motor version, so that you can set what power your transmitter comes up on? Yeah. Try to find it over here on the Get FPV one. That feature is absent. You do not get to set that feature at all. What feature is that? As I mentioned earlier, it's this one right here. This. For the pit setting. So you can basically put it into pit mode so you can drop your power, all that fun stuff. So that feature is even missing. That's something they took out for the FPV Crater one. So I just wanted to, I got no problems with this flight controller. I'm sure it's a great flight controller. I'm sure you can, as long as it's hooked up correctly, it'll work perfectly fine. It's just, I don't like when things get complicated and unnecessarily complicated, because there's no instructions, and when you compare it to the thing that looks near identical, it's actually enough different to be a problem. And that's what I don't like about it. But as far as the flight controller, I'm sure it's great. I have no problems with that. And as far as value goes, if this is actually the same price as the T-Motor version of it, then this box had some stupendous value. So if you're new around here, here's how my take goes. I feel like $20 is like the baseline where I'm willing to sacrifice choice of product for the value that I'm going to receive. If I get less than $20 over the cost of the box and the shipping and all that stuff, then I started feeling like I got a little, like I didn't get really what I paid for. As long as I get $20 or more, I'm happy that I sacrificed choice and I got good value instead. And here being about $35 over the cost of the box, that's some really good value. So as long as this works properly and the silk screening is correct on it, so when it's hooked up it doesn't blow up in my face, then this is a really good box with some decent products in there. We had some good props, we have a good camera, we have a good flight controller, and I'm wondering if the whole plan here, because last month we got a frame, so maybe it's sort of like build a quad piece by piece. So we got the frame, and we got motors, we got those booster motors, we got a frame, we got a flight controller, we got a camera. You know, maybe next month's gonna be ESC, 4-in-1 ESC to go with this. I don't know, just speculating, don't quote me on that, but maybe that's the game plan that they're looking to do, and if so, that would be great. It just would be nice if there was some documentation how to hook this up. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. So, as always, my name's Tronage. Fly strong.